Hi, thank you for tuning in to You Got Mel. This week we're starting a new series called Conversation Starters. It's where we have deep conversations with interesting people about their purpose and how they're spreading a little love in this world. Our first interview is with my dear friend Brandy Chagolla. Brandy is the founder and CEO of Lending Relief, which is a nonprofit based here in Los Angeles, and I am so honored to be on the board of that of her nonprofit as well. So please enjoy this interview with Brandy and I, and I'll see you at the end. Thank
It's Brandy Chagolla, the creator and founder of Lending Relief, a nonprofit to help the homeless here in Los Angeles. How did I start Lending Relief?
Mm-hmm.
I guess the backstory on Lending Relief would be I took a couple humanitarian trips internationally, one to Eastern Europe and two to Africa. And I was exposed to extreme poverty for the first time. So my first trip was in Romania, and we were staying actually at an orphanage at a border town called Giurgiu. That Romania was just across the way from our windows. You could see the hills of Bulgaria. I mean, in
Oh,
Romania,
wow.
looking at Bulgaria, and it was a train stop. It was the last stop in Romania to go to Bulgaria, and we were staying with orphans there. And that was kind of my first look to seeing extreme poverty firsthand. And then going to Africa twice after that, again, extreme poverty. And we were working again at an orphanage. And at the time, there was Joseph Kony, who was kidnapping children really for the LRA, the Lord's Resistance Army. So we were staying at an orphanage. It was mainly a safe house. So typically children wouldn't have any parents. So if there's an older sibling, the older sibling would take the younger ones through the jungle at night to get to a safe house.
Oh,
So we were
wow.
working at this orphanage in Uganda, actually. So.
And then how did that tie into starting something in LA?
So at the time, I'd come back to LA, and I was working as a business analyst for a Fortune 500 company, and I was doing my thing. I had it all. I had leadership and public speaking and all these things, and then going on to this trip, coming back, it stirred something in me. And at the time, gentrification was a big story here in LA and downtown LA, turning a lot of these buildings into lofts, and what they were doing to the homeless and the low income population in downtown LA. So I thought that was interesting, caught my interest. I had a friend who was living at the Alexandria on 5th and Spring. And at the time, the heart of Skid Row was 5th and Main. So from her fire escape, you could see at the time, which was the heart of Skid Row. So I recruited her, and I got a camera, and we walked the streets. I wanted to tell a story from those who's actually affecting on the streets. And that's when I came face to face with extreme poverty here in Los Angeles, and the lack of services really was astonishing to me. I was eye-opening to me. And my first reaction was, well, the government's going to fix this, and the church is going to fix this.
Right. And then that hasn't happened, or it's just not happening at a rate that can actually make a difference?
So it's, so then again, like I still wasn't thinking about starting my own nonprofit.
Right.
So it's kind of like spaced out over, a decade or so. So I'm doing this documentary showing what's happening in downtown LA. Just came back from 3 humanitarian trips. I'm identifying needs. So I start volunteering with different organizations here in Los Angeles. So from inside the missions to on the streets. And what would happen is I really found my zone on the streets with the people. That's where I felt most comfortable. Even on my other trips, I just feel most comfortable with the people on the streets. So I enjoyed that work, and I would volunteer with other people. And what would happen is they would like close up shop. They would just stop doing it because it's a hard, emotional, draining experience to be consistent on the streets.
Right.
So I, again, was thinking it's going to be fixed somehow magically. And then Los Angeles declared Los Angeles a state of emergency for homelessness. And that's when I knew, okay, I've been waiting. I've been identifying needs. I've seen the underserved communities, the inconsistencies, and that's when I knew this is the time to jump in.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, so how long have you had Lending Relief as a nonprofit organization?
As of right now,
Mhm.
it is 2.5 years.
Okay.
Yeah,
Great.
as an official organization. Yes.
And then, so what are some streets that you see, some trends you see on the streets? Like, is there a trend of like more people, more nonprofits going out more, or is it kind of like it's just scrap? I'm sure there's like an acceptance. Like, there's always probably like who are you and why are you here? So what has been your experience with that?
Yeah, 100%. Like if you're on the streets, we're getting sized up the moment we park our car and get out. We're being sized up. So I believe in authenticity. I believe in consistency because they can spot BS. We're not
Right.
fooling people in here. So we go out meeting basic needs on the streets consistently. Until the COVID hit. But up until then, we were consistent. And the trends I'm seeing on the street is that an influx of nonprofits doing specific things. So
Okay.
there'd be a nonprofit specifically for shoes. There'll be a nonprofit specifically for vegan food. There'll be a nonprofit specifically for like reading to children and things like this. So I've seen trends as far as there's like an inpouring to Los Angeles of needs, yet we're still seeing homelessness grow on the street.
Right.
So our niche is consistency. It's meeting basic needs. We were talking about this. We've seen this period poverty happening, and an
Right.
underserved community on the streets are women and menstrual needs. So we try to meet menstrual needs on the streets. Another need that we've seen consistently for years is socks on the streets. Like that is like gold, and women wear men's socks. This is an underserved item still on the streets. So we're seeing things like that. And healthy foods, when we go with tangerines and we go with bananas, that's a game changer. People like look
Oh,
twice.
yeah.
Like what? Like these are things that we take for granted maybe, but on the streets, it's a new idea still in this day, 2020. It's
Right.
making the impact.
And so if I am a person that is overwhelmed by how to even help in the war against homelessness, like what could I do to make a real impact?
Yeah, that's great. That's a great question. I believe that everyone, all humanity, we're gifted with certain ways to give back to humanity. So I
Mhm.
think that starts with a little bit of soul searching, like what am I good at, what feels good to me. During COVID, we've had an outpouring of creativity, of people just being creative. Like I have a friend who actually have an example here. She makes these rainbows,
Oh,
and
yeah.
she just started this, and for every 10 she sells one, she'll send us one of these to give to someone on the street so they can hang in what they call home, so a tent or a van or whatever, or transitional housing or shelters, because it reminds them of home. And it's things like this
Yes.
that maybe I wouldn't think of, but this is how we all are in this together. But this is a
Right.
creative idea that's making an impact on such a deep level,
Right.
that it's things like this. Or I have another friend laid off during, all this uncertainty right now. She didn't even realize she could sew. And people were asking for masks for whatever reason. And now she's sewing. She figured it out. And now she's making these masks individually packaged and she's sending
Wow.
that to us.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So I think everyone has something that they can have. Maybe you're a baker, maybe you
Right.
bake a few more cookies and give them to the streets. I think that the smallest effort can have the greatest impact. And I think a lot of times our minds are telling us the exact opposite. Like,
Yes. It's
no,
like
you
go
have to
big.
go big, get them a hotel room, get them a house.
Right.
And it's these baking extra cookies, it's these rainbows, it's these masks, it's having a few extra bottles of water in the car or sunscreen, and having these human
Oh,
moments that I feel are the game changers. We don't know how that's going to ripple through someone's life and how it's
right.
going to affect them. We don't always have to go big. And yeah, if you look at the need, like the whole need, it's, you take homelessness, there's so many intersectional other issues in here. So now you're thinking about foster care system. Now it's mass incarceration. It's, women issues, LGBTQ, like all it's, so it is a lot. You think of all of these at once, but if you just
Right.
think the one in front of you and how you're wired and what you're passionate about, and then these things we all come together.
That's so good. That's so good. I've already gotten some ideas of like what I can put in my car because like we're in LA, we're both in LA, so we're experiencing a heat wave right now. And I'm like, if the water fountains are not working, how are people getting water? So now I will have like, I'm gonna go buy a case of water and just keep it in my car in a cooler. And if I see
Oh,
water, give it out because
oh,
like, I mean, libraries are closed. Like everywhere you go to cool off is
yeah,
closed right now. So it's like, what's gonna happen? Like
yeah.
the percentage of heat strokes are just going to rise and everything. And it's just like, we can all do a little bit to try and help that too.
That's the
So
thing. If we all just do a little bit together, we are causing great change, I believe.
yeah, yeah, I believe that too. And so since you brought up COVID, I have a COVID question. So I have two of them. What are your thoughts on, what are they calling it? LA Room Key what are your thoughts? Yes,
Yeah.
Project Room Key. And what are your thoughts on that? And what do you think how do you think COVID is going to impact the homeless community?
I think COVID is this wild uncertainty that we're all still dealing with. And what
Mm-hmm.
I feel in general is that COVID has like shined a spotlight, if you will, for the need for services for homelessness and homeless individuals in Los Angeles. I think we are at a place where you cannot deny anymore that there's homelessness.
Right.
So I believe it has shown the deficit of services that are available to homeless people in that. So pre-COVID, LA, Los Angeles Housing Services Authority, LAHSA, does their annual homeless count. So pre-COVID 2020, homelessness increased 12.7%, I believe, in LA County. So almost 13% was already an increase. Then COVID hits. CDC is saying everyone's locked down. Then the city starts this Project Room Key. So empty buildings, the hotel industry has been affected. Things like
Right.
that, like homelessness. So it's temporary housing for anyone who would like it. There's 3 meals a day. There's a nurse there. There's
Oh.
security. So I think that is a good thing. Bridge housing. Bridge housing is starting to get some traction now because there's this increase that already happened. Now during COVID, people are losing their livelihoods. We're
Right.
seeing unemployment numbers skyrocket. There's a freeze right now in evictions that is supposed to end in September. So I think it's like brace for impact moment, that there's going to be another wave of homelessness. And I think there's going to be more to come. So hopefully these services, like you're saying, will be extended because again, they're temporary. So
Right.
I hope this is a step towards low-income housing movement. I hope this is a step towards real estate developers, including the current residents more. I hope this is a turning point that we're able to house, our unhoused neighbors here in Los Angeles.
Right. Yeah. And so is there something that we can do immediately to help with that second hit that's going to come? Or is it just like you have to brace for it and then deal with it when it happens? Like, how can we be proactive with that?
Right. I think that one program that used to be available to us was hotel vouchers, because the city would give a certain amount of hotel vouchers to nonprofits to help with the homeless. But that, because of budgeting, has also, we don't have access to that anymore. So now it's more advocating. I think
Okay.
this goes on a policy level. Lending relief. We've signed up for homelessness and poverty committees downtown in City Hall. And the meetings should start up again because there's this Triple H money that's coming. So I feel that now it's on a policy level that the
Okay.
next wave that's coming. But if you do have access to hotels or something like that, like, yes, I think this is going to be an all hands on deck moment.
Yeah. And so with Lending Relief specifically, how can we partner to help Lending Relief do the good that they do?
Well, I think being a nonprofit, we've always been people powered. So even from the very beginning, grassroots, community-based, started with the GoFundMe campaign and just have grown now into meeting basic needs on the street, and more needs are actually coming to our doorstep. So I just got a call this week about an agency on the west side who works with prenatal and postnatal women, and Lending Relief is going to come up with 1,000 diapers for them this month. Yeah, so there's more needs coming. So I'm saying, like, there is a lot happening.
Yes.
I would say the first one is donate. We have donations through PayPal. Another one, sponsorships, monthly sponsorships, quarterly sponsorships. We're also launching the Ambassadors for Change movement. So if you're a person who likes to gather people for change, like, we have so many needs right now for menstrual hygiene, socks, hygiene kits, and now diapers is going to be on our list as well.
Yes, diaper drive. Here we come.
Yeah, this is a basic need.
It's so basic.
I didn't realize this. So there's a prenatal and postnatal women, girls and women who are going to give birth or just gave birth. And I can't imagine having to worry about a basic need.
Right.
If you have a brand new human with you. Like,
right. Like, and they're so expensive. Diapers, like when my sister was pregnant for the first time, we did her registry and everything. I'm like, why are these diapers so expensive? Like,
why?
The babies need them, like.
Exactly.
So,
I mean, this is another cause to advocate for, but so why are diapers so expensive? I can see why this, we don't need any more stress in our lives. So if we can bring some relief, some diaper relief to girls and women and their babies, like, we are all for that.
Yeah. So if anyone out there has extra diapers that your baby has grown out of, please send them to Lending Relief to help with the diaper needs.
We would love that. Yes, thank you.
Yeah. And then so Lending Relief goes out on outreach how many times a month?
We were doing twice. We were doing second Saturday in Venice and fourth Saturday in Skid Row. And again, this kind of speaks to being consistent and not wearing out volunteers, not wearing ourselves out, because emotionally, it's a lot to walk into. So to build out sustainability, this is how I've seen so many good-hearted people just exhaust themselves, and they're not back on the streets anymore. So I really wanted, after a decade of seeing what works and what doesn't, what models work, what models don't, we're really building in. We might be, building slower, but we're building for the long haul here.
Yeah, to build longevity and not just
sustainability.
Burnout, yes.
Right, burnout, yes.
Yes, that's great.
Yeah, yes. Self-care in this work, this line of work is key. Yeah.
Right. How do you recharge after an outreach or just like a hard day on the streets?
For me, that's a great question. I feel like I'm getting better at this. And I'm such an achiever. I mean, I'm a Capricorn, Enneagram 3. Like, I love to achieve. And I think I've, been so driven at the expense of maybe a personal life. So for me, I am really, driven right now by like love and belonging, connection and joy, and finding that like vulnerability is a key to unlock all these new things in my life. So my new interests right now are being outdoors more. I'm researching like camping equipment, because I know, because I'm at a stage where I'm like, I need the balance. I was getting off balance. So I do need the balance. So I want to be outdoors more. I want to go like kayaking and buy a tent. And I think that's going to help be around water. People, being around people also drain and recharge me, right? It's
right.
Finding that dance, that middle.
That middle ground.
Yeah. So connecting with nature. That's like my new thing.
Nice. And then who inspires you?
I think that's a great question. It's a broad question. I think the people that really inspire me and really draw on my heart are the ones that we're probably never going to hear about, or the ones that, the names aren't, well known. I often think of a single mom who had 4 kids and they were homeless. And when you're homeless in LA, there's really nowhere to go during the day if you're at the shelter. So they had like buses all day. Finally got into a shelter, which is almost like winning the lottery, basically. And they came the night before they were supposed to move in, and the other family was still there. So they slept on the floor that night. And the next morning, I was working in the temporary housing, and I met them, and they're telling me their story. And then just seeing her journey, and she kept her kids all together,
Wow.
all through, this crazy situation, not knowing what to do. Now she went to school for like a nursing or like a dental hygienist, something like that. She's working full time. Her oldest like went to the military. The kids are thriving.
Wow.
And to see that cycle of someone who could have just gave up and, forget it, but no, she
Yes.
kept her family together. She got into temporary, safe housing for her children, kept everyone together, and now they're thriving. And she's creating, I think that's what's creating lifelong change. The
Yes.
cycle of poverty.
Yes. That's so good. That's so
So I
good.
often think about her like that. How did she do that?
Yeah. Yeah. Would you say that that's your driving force too? It's just like people like her and just helping everyone that way, or what would be your driving force?
Yeah, I think the human spirit is tenacious. I think this human spirit in us is like this wild, untamed, phenomenon that together, I think unity, I think, we can create this change. But yeah, I think she really had to pull on an inner strength that she didn't even know
Right.
she had. And then looking back, and there's like so much more to her story that's just like completely just like wild, but yes, stories like that, knowing I need these stories. I need these
Right.
stories of winning to know it's possible, because in this line of work, like it's not like I'm gonna solve homelessness and and a week later it's done, you go on to the next thing.
Right.
It's
Right.
like lifelong. So like
Yes.
internationally, my heart is for refugees, and domestically it's like the misplaced, the ones that are don't have a home. Like this is where I gravitate towards. So yeah, someone who can do the cycle, break the
Right.
cycle, thrive, and even though all this happened, is thriving now. Like yes,
Yeah.
that's it.
That's good. And then, so I always like to ask, like, what is your mama I made it moment? Like, I know that like there's always those big goals, but there's those ones that you're like, oh yeah, I made it. Like, so do you have one of those?
I would say, Mama, I made it. I love it. I think that it's when lending relief, when we're signing deeds and documents that we're acquiring apartment housing to turn it into low income housing with rehabilitation services to get homeless women and their children off the streets in LA into safe housing. So I believe
Yeah.
that's the I made it, when we're have the shovels and we're breaking
Right.
ground, or we're signing the lease, or we're painting the rooms, or whatever. That's it.
That's
I
awesome.
don't know what higher pinnacle.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I have a few games. So my first one is called Check Please or Another Round. So so I just ask you questions about like trending things, and you can just say check please if you like, no, if you don't like it, and then another round if you like it.
Okay.
So TikTok.
TikTok. Check please.
Me too.
I don't get it.
I don't either.
Yeah. Don't judge me.
Yeah.
I think.
Kanye West for president.
Kanye West for president. Check please. I mean, it's entertaining, but I want him to be okay.
Yes. Yes, definitely.
I want him to be okay. And then rethink it and retool it. And then if he's really going to do it, launch it, but this year I'm going to say check please.
Yes. And then my last one, chocolate chip cookies.
What? Chocolate chip cookies?
Yes.
Oh, another round, please.
Really?
Chocolate chip?
Well, okay, I do like chocolate chip cookies. I don't like all chocolate chip cookies though. Is that weird?
Or maybe like Chips Ahoy, but like you get like a good vegan, gluten-free chocolate chip cookie.
Oh, that's like a lot of parameters around that chocolate chip cookie.
That's my LA-ness coming out. That's my LA native coming out.
Gluten-free.
I know, right?
Yeah. You're definitely from LA.
I know, I am.
Yeah.
But yeah, vegan gluten, that's my jam. Yes.
Yeah. I need
all
the
day.
chocolate, like I need there to be like enough chocolate chips in there, but not too many. Like, and then I don't like it when they're flat. I like when they have a little salt on them. So not all of them. But
Salt.
Yes. I
Yes.
love the ones with like the little bit of salty flakes on them. It's so good. Now
I
I
did
want
not know
cookie.
that. I didn't know that. I just learned something new.
Yeah. So my next game is called Unpopular Opinion.
Okay.
Where you share an opinion that you have that might not be popular, but it's something you stand by.
I think I have a lot of those.
And it could be anything.
It could be anything. Okay. Unpopular opinion. Okay. Well, I mean, since it's election year and you brought up Kanye, I would say that it is okay to be friends with someone who has polar opposite political beliefs and ideologies.
Yes.
I'll even go a step further to say it's beneficial, it's fun. I enjoy thoughtful debates. I enjoy sharing myself and someone else saying, you are crazy. What about da 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 da? You know, but I like forming arguments. So if I have a philosophy or way of life and someone like pokes holes in it, like counter arguments, like I like that stuff.
Me too.
Not that I'm like, they're going to change me, I'm going to change them, but that's not the point. I just enjoy hearing other political thoughts. I'm not intimidated by it, you know, I don't lose anything in it. I think we only gain. I think
so too.
When we have these differences. Because I would say for me, there's not one person in my life that agrees with everything I say. And I'm so thankful for that. Like, I couldn't even imagine, you know, I enjoy common ground too, but I enjoy the variety and the difference of opinions. And I was with a friend's friend a couple weeks ago, and they have these political views I've never heard before. And I was like, what? Like, I've never heard these views before. And I was like, I mean, 3 hours later, we were discussing it, and I was like, this would not work for women. Like this, you have not considered this, and it's fun. I like it.
Yes, I agree too. My parents used to always tell us growing up, it takes all kinds of kinds. So
yeah, it does because we're all growing and evolving. So that's the fun. Yeah, get involved with each other. You know, I think there's so much, you know, polarizing, I guess you could say, polarization right now.
Yes, definitely. Like the whole like get everyone off your Facebook that doesn't like subscribe to you. It's like if it's responsible, respectful, like why can't they have a difference of opinion? Right. You know, I think that I share that same unpopular opinion as you. I believe it, like everyone's as good, all good, and they're all bad. All at this, you know, like there's just everyone has a bad side, everyone has a good side.
Totally. Like, you mentioned we're in LA. A couple weeks ago, there was a protest in West Hollywood and Beverly Hills. And I had some questions about it because I was like, oh, this is new to me. So I went on Twitter of all places and I opened myself up for debate because I had a question. I honestly had a question. So, and I said, from a concerned citizen or whatever, curious concerned citizen is what I said. And I got
torched.
I mean, their jumping off point was like, you know, harsh and negative, you know, but they were replying to my tweet. So I replied to every person who offended me not. And I said, thank you for your reply, you know, but I was asking actually about this piece of it because they wanted to get like, you know, I just kind of focused them on this piece, and a lot of them didn't return my tweet, but the ones that did, it was like, oh, how interesting. Yeah, we are opposites, but okay, thank you for answering my question.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Because sometimes I feel like sometimes people lose sight of the question and just go to everything else. And it's like, well, wait, like, I just had one question, but that doesn't automatically mean that I don't agree with everything else. I just have one question about this thing. Yeah. So,
focusing people, and it's really interesting. People are so interesting.
Yes. And like with all the digital and media that we have now, it's easy to lose focus quickly. So it's hard to stay on topic. So you have to just keep refocus. Like I have to do that every day.
Take a break, go for a walk.
Yes, definitely. So I love Art LeBeau. He's a old school DJ on, I always forget the radio station, but he always does. Yes, I think so. He does song dedication.
Oh, okay.
So, do you have a song dedication? We'll put it in the show notes, a link to the song.
Oh, you have great questions. I love anthems.
Okay.
Like those songs that really are just like, yes. So one of my favorite anthems that I go to, I don't want to wear it out, so I won't go to it like every day, but like when I really need it, is Beyonce and Kendrick Lamar's Freedom.
Okay.
And the lyrics are great. I mean, just like the chords, just a song, like it's perfect, to be honest. Like that is a perfect song. And I would dedicate that to the streets, really the streets of LA. I think there's a lot of people right now who are on the brink. I think there's a lot of people right now who don't know what's going to happen next, if there is a next. I think that there's people with, deep needs right now and real needs. And I think there's a lot of people walking around who look like they have it all together and they're crumbling inside. Mm-hmm. And I think that, right? Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. And I think there's a lot of people who are like counting change to try to get their one meal a day. And I think there's people who need to know that there is a next. I think there's collectively we're going through a big time of uncertainty and risk. So yeah, for the people who are running out of ideas and time and money and resources, I would say tune into this song, find your center. We're gonna get through this. You just cannot give up.
Amen to that.
Not give up. Go slower. You need to not give up.
That's amazing. That's great. So this is what I call my Oprah moment. I ask you two questions that if anyone listens to Oprah's podcast, she always, most of the time, asks these two questions. So I'm going to just give credit where credit's due. They're from Oprah.
Oprah.
So when you're, finish the sentence. When you're 80, you will be.
When I am 80, I will be just getting started.
Yeah, that's good. That's so good.
The entrepreneur, Gary Vee, he talks about that.
Yes.
He talks about that. It's not over at 60. It's not over. He's like, I know 80, 90-year-olds. I'm like,
just getting started.
My way of thinking,
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That's really good. And then what is one thing you wish everyone knew?
If there was one thing, these are good. I would say, kind of like how we were talking before, I would say unity over division.
Ooh,
I would say that we, humanity, and this like human spirit I was talking about later, if we were to come together, we can create massive change here on Earth. We could raise human consciousness. There's an Oprah moment.
Yes.
We could raise human consciousness. We can progress as a society, not leaving the least of these behind. We could be all inclusive and not fight and be divided by sexual orientation, by gender, by these things. I feel like we together can rise above it and see the larger picture of humanity and need and, helping like the refugee and helping, our neighbors and those who are hurting inside. And I just feel like we could do so much more united than divided, which is kind of a new thought. And you had a question earlier, like, what do you say to people who see the big picture as like a really big? To me, that's like my mountain. Like, how do you divide? How do you unite? It's such a where we are right now, So I try not to look at it like that too, but have conversations with people that think like totally different than me, and just I value that. So yeah, I think uniting is something that I've been thinking about lately, and like how that works or how you make a step towards that. But that's really been on my mind lately. So it's a thought I've been kind of like rolling around.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. Brandy, thank you so much for being our first interview.
Thank you.
And just such a dear friend. Yes, you're my first. Besides me like practicing with Julio, you're my first interview.
I love it.